Jumping into the world of stony corals can be a little bit intimidating. In fact, people might be scared of it because of all the things they've heard that you have to do. But not all stony corals are that difficult. This video, I've compiled a list of 10 different easy or beginner LPS corals for you to try out in your tank. So stay tuned. Hi there, I'm Hillary for Waterlogged on behalf of saltwateraquarium.com. When it comes to stony corals, there's a couple of different types, but there's two that stick out above all others, and that is the SPS, or small polyp stony coral, and the LPS, large polyp stony coral. It's the LPS that I've compiled a list of today. Now, these LPS corals tend to be a little bit hardier than the SPS. They tend to be more forgiving, easier to find at your local fish store, online with saltwateraquarium.com, and they're a little bit more affordable. Plus, one of my personal favorites with them is they tend to grow a little bit faster, in my experience, than some of the SPS do, so getting to see that growth in the corals and know that you are being successful always makes you feel good. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and get started on this list of LPS corals. The first LPS that I have for you is a candy cane coral. Now, you might hear candy cane corals being referred to by a couple of different names. So you could hear them being called by trumpet corals, calastria, or even candy cane corals. They're all the same thing, they just have a little bit of a different name. Now, they come in several different colors. My personal favorites are the green and the teal, but you're not limited. Now, I mentioned that I like some of the LPS corals because you get to see them grow, and the candy cane corals are probably one of my favorite for this reason. Now, with soft corals, you get to see them grow. It's pretty easy. They grow fairly fast. Stony corals don't grow as fast, and so it's hard to see the change. You can easily miss as they grow. However, with candy cane corals, because of the way they grow, they kind of branch out. It's really easy to see as they put down new calcium structures and they branch out and grow. So what could start off as a single head could quickly, over the course of a year, become a small little colony of the candy cane corals. So if you're looking for a coral that's going to show you some fast growth, maybe consider getting one of the candy cane corals. Okay, the next one, if you like the candy cane coral, but you want a little bit more to it, maybe you should consider a Duncan. They have a very similar shape, except the Duncan, I guess you could say, has a little bit more frill and fringe around the edges. So Duncan corals are another one that is very, very popular for beginners. Like I said, they're really easy to find either through Saltwater Aquarium or maybe even a friend, and they're very beginner-friendly corals. So if you're looking for something fun that you can watch move around in the flow of your tank, then consider getting a Duncan coral. Okay, my next 2, 3, and 4 on this list, sometimes you'll see them mislabeled, but honestly, whether you get a Favia or you get a Favites, the care for them is pretty much the same. In fact, I would even argue that unless you're looking at the skeletal structure, you may not even really know which one it is. As I said, they look very similar, their care requirements are very similar. Know that either one you get, you're going to get a beautiful coral. They're really fun, bright colors. Some of the colors that you're getting are ones that you would think of seeing in a reef tank, which is why I like them. They're another one of the corals that you can actually watch eat. So maybe consider getting a Favia or a Favites. Moving on from Favia and Favites, the 5th species of coral on my list for LPS for beginners is going to be a Micr Musa, or a Blasto, as you'll hear them referred to a lot of times. I've even seen people calling them pineapple corals, but Blasto and Micr Musa are pretty common to be heard. Now, when you're looking at Blastos, you're typically going to see one of 2 types. So the first one is going to be the Merletti, the other one is going to be the Welsey. Either way you go, they are great for beginners. Now, if you're a fan of some of the soft corals that are those mushroom corals, you probably will really like Blastos. So next time you are shopping online, see if you can't find some and maybe consider adding them to your tank. The sixth species on my list is another coral that has a whole bunch of different names, and the reason for that is because several years back there was a taxonomic restructuring of them, and so you still might hear people refer to them as acans, but they have a new name designation that's a Micr Musa. Sometimes you'll also hear them referred to as lords, acan lords, Micr Musa lords. It's all pretty much the same thing. You're looking at a bunch of beautiful corals. These are some of my favorites. I probably have the most of them in this tank behind me. I love the different varieties that you can get them in, and I love to watch them eat. If you come in the evening or in the early morning before the lights are on, you can kind of see all the little tentacles out there waiting to catch some food. So there's a huge variety when it comes to the Micr Musa. Next time you are shopping, take a look and see what you can find. The next two LPS corals on my list belong to the group of corals that are considered Euphyllia. So the first one is going to be a frog spawn. The second one is going to be a hammer coral. So the hammer coral, if you look at the tip of it, it kind of looks almost rounded like a double hammer. Think like a hammerhead shark. So those are the hammer corals, and the frog spawn typically has a singular dot at the end. Either way you go, these are great as far as Euphyllia. You might have heard of torches, but torches aren't always the easiest and they can tend to be a little bit pricey. But typically the frog spawn and the hammer coral will be great for beginners. They grow pretty well and they're fairly easy to find. All right, we've got two corals left. The second to last coral is a chalice coral. Now, chalices are fairly quick growing as far as LPS corals go, and they're pretty aggressive. So when you put a chalice coral in your tank, you're gonna wanna make sure that you give it space. With all of those things in mind, you should have success keeping them and watching it grow. All right, the last and final coral on my list today, number 10, is a fungia, or a plate coral. These are the ones that you typically see sitting on the bottom of the tank. They start out small, maybe the size of a quarter, and tend to grow out. All right, that's going to conclude my list of LPS corals. I'm curious to know if you've been keeping them before. What is your favorite LPS coral and why? And what would you consider to be the easiest LPS coral and why? Now, if you're a beginner and you are watching this just trying to get ideas for your new tank, leave a comment below. Let me know what questions you have about LPS corals, and I'll do my best to get them answered. All right, this has been Hillary for Waterlogged on behalf of saltwateraquarium.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.